Okay, so hi, I'm Ruby Rivera. I'm our district's Family Engagement Coordinator. Ahorita les voy a decir en español también que soy Ruby Rivera, soy coordinadora del Centro Familiar. Les voy a dar introducción a Miss Mónica Nyland, que va a hacer traducción esta noche. Le voy a dejar que ella te explique cómo agarrar esa traducción. I'm turning it over to Monica Nyland to explain how translation will work tonight.
Buenas tardes, muchas gracias por estar con nosotros. Ahora, yo voy a estar escribiendo lo que dicen en español y para poder verlo, hay un botoncito abajo en su pantalla que tiene una CC, dice Closed Caption. A ver, si pueden darle ahí. Luego me dan una señal si ven ahorita el mensaje de bienvenida que puse. Perfecto, ok. Muy bien, entonces ahí estaré traduciendo para ustedes. Muchas gracias.
All right, thank you, Monica. She's a great resource in the Family Center. I'm sure you've seen her, and thank you for translating for us tonight. So the Family Center started this new project this year called our PSUSD Speaker Series because we want our families to be familiar with all of the resources that are available in Palm Springs Unified. We have a lot of departments that are doing great work. So every month we'll be highlighting one department and asking the person that's in charge of that department to give us an overview and also an opportunity for our parents to ask them questions. So tonight, for this month, we are highlighting our Student Services Department. And with us, we have Lisa Todd. So in just a minute, I'm going to turn it over to her. She has a presentation. And like I said, we really want this to be interactive and engaging for you. So we'll have an opportunity for questions. You're welcome to throw them in the chat if you don't want to forget the question you have, or you could just wait till the end and we'll call on some people then. Thanks so much for joining us, and I will turn it over now to Lisa.
All right, thank you very much. And so I'm just realizing I'm here in my office and it's after hours and my lights are doing something weird. So if they go higher or lower, I apologize in advance for that. All of a sudden they seem really bright. So actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to step away and adjust that real quickly because it's
no worries. So while she stepped away, how are you guys? Everybody good? All right. And she's back.
All right, sorry about that. All of a sudden it was shining in my face. So I'm Lisa Todd. I'm a coordinator for the Student Services Department. And I have kind of a slide about it within my slideshow, but really I am focused on one of my main responsibilities is looking at attendance in the district and how we can encourage students to be at school as much as possible and continue to be engaged. But I also work with a lot of the kind of non-instruction side of things. So we work with schools to support students with their social emotional learning and ways to make sure that we have programs that just help with all of the students' well-being in general. And then I also supervise a group of community liaisons who you may have been in contact with at some point. They primarily work with the elementary sites, but they do a lot of the resource connection with families. And so I work with them to make sure that all of our families have all the resources that we need to make sure that students are able to participate at school. And I'm going to go into kind of some more things, but if it's all right, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen and can go into my presentation. That'll give you, all right. Okay, so hopefully you guys can all see. All right. So I decided to focus this evening on, like I said, one of my main responsibilities was attendance. And September is Attendance Awareness Month. And so I felt like this year was especially important to talk about attendance, especially during September, because I feel like we had a lot of momentum, starting with this new distance learning and all of the craziness that this year has brought. In August, we had, families very involved, and we know it was kind of trying to get started and get students connected. But now we're sort of, everyone's kind of in the groove, and we really want to continue to focus on keeping kids, encouraging kids to stay engaged, because we know some are getting frustrated at times and it's not ideal for all of our students. And so we just figured that September would be a really good time to talk about some of the positive things that we can do to help keep students engaged. So this is, again, a little bit about student services. So I kind of took some information from our website about the things that we are responsible for. So that the first part with the student assistance programs, that's really what I work with. So any of the programs that we coordinate with to help get students from kindergarten through graduation. We also deal with enrollment and transfers, and as I said, attendance, and then we deal with discipline and that kind of thing. And really just our community outreach, community resources. And this is also the place for student records and that kind of thing. So we're, again, really a lot of things on the non-instruction side of the house to support all of our students. So this is an opportunity for you to share, and my original thinking was to put it in the chat, but if there's anybody who wants to kind of volunteer as we go, we have a small enough group, we may be able to do that. But I would be interested in your, if you have ideas about things and you want to put it in the chat, just so I can reflect on those later. But I wanted you to think about your students in our current distance learning situation. And normally I have kind of a little different conversation about getting kids physically to school. But now that students are participating in school in your homes, I want you to, think about, and if you're willing to list some of the things that make it hard to get your student to participate in school every day. So what kind of things may be coming up within your house? And especially if you have multiple kids, it may be different things with each one. But what kind of things are you running into in the process with your children, and what may make it hard to get them to participate every day? It doesn't want to let me see the chat while I'm in the full screen presentation, so.
I can read them off, Lisa.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, great. So Diana has shared that it's a challenge to get them to stay motivated and complete their assignments. And my reflection was that I have been a little more relaxed with bedtime, knowing that we don't have to get up extra early to get ready and drive. I think I've been allowing them to stay up later than normal, and they're a little sleepier in the morning. So that's a little harder to get them energized and ready when we haven't had all that time to get ready and take the drive, where it's like a roll out of bed and quick breakfast and you're in class. So they're a little sleepy. And then we have another comment. If they have a good week, I take them to get ice cream. So I think that's answering your second question about how to motivate them to participate. And then another person says, reminding them that school is different now, but it's still school. That's a good one. This is absolutely still school, even though it's different. And another parent has shared that one of the challenges is internet connections. Thank you to everyone who's sharing.
Yes, absolutely. And really, that we are really interested in the feedback around, even when your student is having a hard day, what helps them get motivated. And so, because that seems to be a question that we get asked. And again, with my conversations with parents and with the liaisons who are going out to houses to talk to families about how to get students involved, a lot of the time there are parents who are, working, they're trying to balance their schedule, and they're saying, well, I'm trying to get them to do it, but they don't want to. So we are trying to come up with some answers to that, some things that may be helpful to help support parents to continue to have their students participate on a daily basis. And so obviously, if there are things that come up later, please feel free to share them in the chat. But this is definitely something we're continuing to work on.
I have one more parent comment in the chat. Someone also added, no family-to-family connections to provide help to those who are missing out, who just give up with distance learning. And if anyone, if you want to expand on that, or if anyone wanted to expand on what they put in the chat, like Lisa was saying, you know, we're a small enough group, so feel free to jump in if you like to.
All right, so just some things that hoping to come out of our conversation today is we're really trying to focus our conversation on that missing out on school means missing out on learning. So I'm not here to give you a big lecture on how people are going to be in trouble if their kids aren't at school. It's really about what students are missing out on if they're not able to participate on a regular basis. And one of the things that we find when we were speaking with parents is that over the course of a year, most parents underestimate how many total days that their student has missed, especially if it's only a 1 day here or 1 day there. But really what we're looking at is missing up to 2 days a month, which overall doesn't sound like that much, but that can really add up to a student over the course of the year, and ultimately winds up putting them in a category that where we list them as what we call chronically absent. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But also that logging in and showing up to class on time is important, because just again, missing out on class means those missed opportunities for learning. And really, ultimately what we want to encourage, especially during this year, and what I'm hoping is that this continues after we all go back to school, is really being in contact with your student's school if you're having problems with things. And if your school isn't giving you the answers, then contact student services and we can start working on things. But really that communication piece is so key to making sure that we can all work together to help students be successful. So I'm going to show, this is a short video that kind of talks, it's really from a parent standpoint of the importance of attendance. And so I also just realized, and Ruby, I said I was going to do this and then I didn't do it when I clicked it. So I may have to reshare real quickly because I didn't click the share computer sound. So I'm going to reshare my screen. All right, there we go. All right, so you're back to seeing the presentation, correct? Okay.
Ask parents and they will tell you attending school is important.
I think that at his early age, it's really important for him to get used to coming to school every day.
Attendance is important, and I only have it in one sentence. You miss school, you miss out.
As long as you go to school, you get that foundation, then later on you can choose whatever you want.
You know, school is very important, not just for your education, but for you to learn how to socialize.
Yet, student absenteeism is a national crisis. Nationwide, 1 out of 10 students are chronically absent, meaning they miss 18 days or more over the course of an entire school year.
I learned the importance of attendance when my son was in 2nd grade. I didn't know that by him missing 1 or 2 days out of the month, he was actually being chronically absent. You know, he was now reading a grade level, and his writing wasn't as great. So when I went to do a meeting with the teacher, and I asked her, you know, what's the reading level of my son? What's his writing level? And she told me that he was behind.
It's normal for students to miss a few days of school. Kids do get sick, especially when they're younger. But if absences continually add up, even if it's only just 2 or 3 days each month, by the end of the school year, students can have missed so much instruction that they experience difficulty learning to read, mastering important math concepts, passing courses, and ultimately graduating from high school.
Many times when we talk to the families, they're just not aware about the importance of being in school every single day. They may feel that, missing a school day here or there, it's okay because of family issues and other commitments that they have. But what we see over and over again is when parents get that information and someone actually communicates to them and helps them understand the consequences, they'll be the first champions to ensure that that child is in school.
If the parent tells me it's one day here, one day there, I'll let them know that that becomes a habit. One day here, one day there becomes 2 days here, 3 days there, and potentially a dropout, by the time they get to high school.
Good attendance starts with families making it a priority, even when it isn't always easy. It makes a difference when families set a regular bedtime and morning routine to make sure children get enough sleep and wake up ready for school. Make medical appointments when school is not in session. Avoid taking vacations when school is in session. Send children to school every day unless they're truly sick. Finally, develop backup plans for getting children to school if something comes up.
So now my son, I want to tell you that he's in 8th grade. So the years have passed. Now I have 2 other children that are in school. One of them's in 5th grade and the other one's in 2nd grade. 3rd grade actually. My daughter's in 3rd grade, and attendance has become something that in our household we really make it very important.
Families can also turn to each other for help, setting up carpools or joint child care arrangements to make their lives a little easier. As a parent myself, I know how much I value being able to turn to friends and family for help.
I think parents can help each other in a lot of ways, and I think that part of that is the school figuring out exactly what the issue is and why their child's not coming, and then creating a connection for parents to say, oh, you live in the same area, maybe you can contact this parent, or let me put you in touch with this parent to see if you can pick up, a child, or if they can help take your child home in the afternoon, whatever the issue is.
Sometimes, though, families face bigger challenges to getting to school, such as a lack of reliable transportation or stable housing. Chronic illness can also complicate attendance.
Last year, John, the asthma was really bad, and he missed almost a week each month out of school for, I'd say, 6 months.
When more serious challenges arise, families can work with their schools to make sure their children get what they need. In Baltimore, for instance, John's asthma-related absences subsided when his school opened a full-service health clinic.
If your school doesn't have a school nurse and your child has a chronic condition, you could advocate for your child as well as the other children in the school. I would suggest that you have a conversation with the principal and kind of asking the principal what the protocols are if your child, should have an asthma attack during school time.
If there are things that are problems that prevent them from coming to school that we cannot help if they don't let us know, just letting parents know that it's okay, that, that times are hard and obviously situations arise, and we will, do what we can as a school to try to support.
Parents can make a real difference in solving the problem of too many absences. We need to work together in our homes, in our schools, in our communities. When we help our children attend today, we ensure they can achieve tomorrow.
So parents, get your kids to school. They have to come every day. It's so fun, and the teachers love them, and they don't fall off track when they're here every day. So I feel that would be my bit of advice for parents.
So thank you for allowing me to show that. I did mean to kind of have a disclaimer at the beginning, because Attendance Works is an organization that does a lot of work with attendance, and so they put together that video. And obviously that was pre-COVID time, and so we've definitely looked at changing our messaging around sending students to school when they're sick. We used to have something that's like, are they really so sick that they can't come to school? But now obviously we want to be very careful about that and make sure that we are supporting our students to only go to school if they are, you know, in a good position to be able to go and learn and that kind of thing. So definitely moving forward into this year, that will be some guidance that we'll be talking about a little bit differently. Is if a student, if you think your child is sick, we'll probably be telling you not to send them to school. But one of the great things, I guess, that's kind of coming out of this process is we as a district have had to come up with ways for students to participate even if they're not in the room. And so hopefully moving forward, that will be something that we will be able to say, your child stay home, but maybe they can, you know, go into their Google Classroom later and get the notes or find the assignment, or, you know, we may even be able to, they can Zoom in and watch. So, but either way, that's one thing I wanted to make sure that you know, I mentioned to you, so that we are not going to be pushing on the district side of things. If your kid, you know, is possibly sick, please do not send them to school. But really overall, the message is, again, as several of the parents in the video said, and what we are trying to have our messaging be, is that students miss out when they're missing school. And so it's basic skills that if they miss, you know, multiple days over the course of a year, they're missing those basic reading and math skills. And we know the process for learning for students requires repetition. They don't just get it once and then they've learned it. They usually need to practice it multiple times in multiple scenarios and settings. And so every time they miss, yes, they may have gotten the lesson on Monday, but they didn't get a chance to practice it on Tuesday. And when they come back on Wednesday, now there's sort of a gap and they're not necessarily in the same place as their classmates. And it also helps them feel prepared for class. In talking with students, in starting this position last year, I did some focus groups with students to find out why they would miss class. And especially at the secondary level, I had students saying that they would miss certain classes because they hadn't done the homework or they hadn't prepared and they didn't want to go and be embarrassed. And so them being able to go every day and know what's happening and be able to keep up with the flow of classroom helps them then feel prepared to be able to and confident enough to show up each day, and then also be able to show up for the next year. Especially at some of those really important years between the transition from 5th grade to 6th grade and from 8th grade into and 9th grade into high school, and all of those things that they need to be able to carry with them. All of that grows over the course of their educational history. But I also, so these are some of the, you know, primary academic things, but also in this time, you know, we're realizing that's the chance for them to interact with their friends, to meet new people, and also be able to develop some talents and skills that they may not have realized that they have. So some of the extracurricular things that they can participate in at school, being able to learn an instrument or learn to sing or learn to dance or various, you know, art skills, all kinds of things that students can learn and realize that they're good at. That they can build that process at school. So I wanted to explain a little bit, just because this has been kind of a recent change, and that's sometimes why I want to make sure I communicate with parents how we talk about attendance, because it's different than it used to be in the past. So we used to really only focus on what we call truancy, which only focuses on unexcused absences. And so that's the, you know, you go out of town, you know, take vacation, or you just don't have a good reason, the kid is just home. And those would be the absences that we were really concerned about. And it was very focused on education code and the law around attendance and that. And when it came to consequences, it was very focused on the legal and administrative solution. So that's, you're going to be in trouble if you don't send your student to school, and we're going to send you to the district attorney and you're going to get fined and those kind of things. That used to be the language and how we talked about attendance. But really, again, when we're focusing on the loss of learning, we're really looking at all absences. So yes, we know that students will be absent. I mean, we know that it's normal for students to be absent. Students do get sick, that kind of thing. But if we can minimize that as much as possible so that they're not also missing days because they have an all-day dentist appointment, or because the family is leaving for vacation, or just different kinds of things, because all of those, whether it's excused or not, means a missed opportunity to learn. And so again, we know that students will get sick or may have reasons where they absolutely can't avoid missing school, but we really want to help educate parents around, again, the loss of learning and how important it is for them to be there every day that's possible. And again, we're really focusing on kind of community-based and positive strategies. So we're really trying to focus more on the incentives and really trying to emphasize the positive things that come from being at school, and changing some of our processes to really start working on student connections on campus, rather than, again, just focusing on get your kid to school or you're going to be in trouble. So these are just some statistics, you know, I pulled together just because, again, a lot of times when we talk with parents, they aren't fully aware of how many days their students have really missed. One of the strategies that we use in some of our attendance meetings is we put together an attendance tracker that has all the days of the school year, and then we'll go through and mark the days that students have missed and kind of total it. And sometimes when a parent sees that as a visual, they realize, oh my gosh, my student has missed quite a few days. And it does add up. So, you know, we're talking about if you miss a day of school between kindergarten, every week between kindergarten and 11th grade, that's 5 semesters. That's over a year of schooling that could potentially be missed just from one day a week. And then there's things around being a little bit late. If you're a half hour late every day, you know what that means. But some of the things we really focus on is students being able to read at grade level by 3rd grade. That's kind of a key benchmark. And we definitely see that students who are absent quite a bit in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade do not necessarily, they have a much harder time being able to read at grade level in 3rd grade. And then that 3rd grade measurement also can be an indicator for students who will be more likely to drop out. And when we start looking at high school, the attendance, the way a student attends during their earlier grades is a better indication of them being able to graduate than their test scores. So if a student has super high test scores but isn't attending school regularly, they will still be more likely to drop out than somebody who does attend regularly. And of course, our goal is for students to be able to complete high school and graduate and be able to then open those doors to those opportunities after graduation. And so this just kind of shows the trends and the way things happen. So what this looks at is the way that students who are chronically absent in early grades and how that impacts them later. So every year that students are chronically absent in elementary school makes it that much greater chance that they will be chronically absent in middle school and beyond. And so what this shows here is that if we've got students who are in 1st grade who are chronically absent, they're almost 6 times more likely to be chronically absent in kindergarten or in 6th grade when they get there. And then it goes up to 18 times more likely to be chronically absent in 6th grade if they're continuing to be chronically absent over their early grades. So it really does, as the gentleman said in the video, it does kind of become a habit. If they miss one day here and one day there in elementary school, then in middle school, when they're trying to miss one day here and one day there, they don't understand why it's suddenly a big deal. So it's like, oh, it's, you know, that's what I did in elementary. And so it's really kind of getting students into that habit of showing up every day that they can. And so this is just a visual that they use in the video, but also attendance works used regularly to give parents kind of an idea of where we want parent or student absences to fall. And so again, ideally we're looking at 9 or fewer over the course of the year. And we have a 180-day school year. And so that is just about or just under the 10% of the school days. And so when they're in the 10 to 17, that's when we start to be concerned that there's going to be a greater impact on their learning. And then more than, sorry, and I just realized I said 10%, is not correct, 5%. The 10% would be the 18 days. And that's really when we start to be looking at impacts on student learning if they're missing 18 or more days, which would be 10% of the school year. And this does, as I was saying before, include excused and unexcused absences. And so, like I said, we understand that students will miss days. And what we're hoping is that if we take away all those other reasons students might miss school, like again, dental appointments or that kind of thing, that if we can keep them down around that 9 absences or under, gives them a much better chance to continue to be academically successful during the course of that year. And so some of the things that we talk to parents about in our conversations, and these are things that you can be thinking about within your life, and then also maybe how you can help message these ideas with parents in your circles. But so we really talk about the different pieces that go into getting a student to be at school, and that's what is going on with the family themselves, what kind of things can happen around the family, so the helpers, neighbors, other people who support that family, what's happening in the schools themselves and what the ways they can support students, and then also what's available in the community, making sure that we have adequate transportation and health services and those kind of things. So these next couple slides are sort of the reflection for you, and you can definitely feel free to type anything into the chat if there's something that resonates with you, but it's more of kind of for you to be thinking about. But what are some of the things that you already do to help get your student to school every day? And I left it on there as get your student to school, but also right now it's getting your student to participate. So that can be things like setting those routines. I know there are parents who have their student, get up at a certain time every morning and make sure that they eat. We've got students who, especially at the elementary, who still have their student get dressed in their uniform t-shirt, even if they're wearing pajama bottoms or whatever, but go through certain things so that they know, as you were saying in your chat, it's at home, but it's still school. So there's something that makes that separate. And then if you're thinking about families that what are some of the reasons that students might miss school that you might be able to help with, or things maybe within your own household? And at this point, we're really talking about those things that are under your control. So I'm not saying that you need to go buy everybody, good internet who doesn't have good internet and that kind of thing, but really thinking about maybe some of those things that people talk to you about, or that your students are having a hard time with, that you might be able to help them with. And so some of those possible ideas, as I was just mentioning, are the setting the regular bedtime. And these were the things mentioned within the video. Scheduling medical appointments, outside of the school day, not taking vacation during school if possible. I did put a little asterisk on the send student to school every day unless they're truly sick. Again, if you're concerned, at this point, we want them to stay home. But if they're just a little bit, if they wake up and they've got their allergies, they can still right now do distance learning. So we're really hoping that they can participate as much as possible. And then having those backup plans. And this is particularly when we're back in person, but being able to, if something happens on your end, making sure that you've got maybe a reliable neighbor or that kind of thing that would be able to potentially take your child to school. And then with social capital, this is again around what kind of things outside of your family. So of your neighborhood, of your friends, are there things are there people that you can call that could, regularly help you out every day, some that could occasionally in an emergency? And are there things that you could potentially do for other families? I know I've had parents who have said they know that they've got a neighbor who works, and so they've got maybe a high school student and then a couple of maybe a middle and elementary student, and the high school student is supposed to be kind of in charge of making sure that kids do things. And the neighbor was saying that I will call over there and I will help make sure that your other kids get on, because it is a lot of responsibility for a high school student to be in charge of all the rest of their siblings. But if you can think of within your area, if there's ways that you might be able to help other families, those are just things to kind of think about. And then also with our schools, you know, I will say I'm kind of in charge of attendance within the district. I will not pretend to know everything. I absolutely do not. And so if there's ever something that you think is not being addressed by schools that you think would be helpful for us to know, by all means, you know, I've tried to figure out how to get my information out there on our district page. We have a student services page with all our contact information. But please, if you're noticing something or you're hearing things from parents that you think is not being addressed, we would definitely like for that information to come our way so that we can look at if it's something that we aren't aware that's happening. And so definitely being encouraging you all to be talking to your schools about your students' attendance and what kind of things that they are doing to help make sure the students attend every day. And then also within the community. And so we do a lot of work to really try, and we're pretty lucky within the Coachella Valley to have a lot of supportive organizations. And because the school district is a fairly large entity within the Palm Springs area, we have had to establish relationships with a lot of community organizations to make sure that we can support our families. And so I feel like we have a lot of amazing people who are working on transportation issues. And, you know, we hired a supervising nurse who I understand spoke with the group last month to try and help make sure that we have contacts with reliable health services. And really trying to figure out ways that we can make sure that everything that's available in our community is able to be shared with our families. But you may be aware of some barriers that parents are mentioning that we have not addressed. And maybe there's something consistently in your neighborhood or in your area that you, again, think that we should know about. And so if there are barriers that our families are facing that you think, again, are not being addressed, then definitely please feel free to reach out. And then if there's anything off the top of your head, you can certainly type that in the chat right now, because we're always trying to figure out what kind of organizations we can connect with to make sure that if a parent or if a student says that they have a need, that we can direct them to somebody who can help. And that's our ultimate goal. And so then, you know, as I mentioned at the start, September is our Attendance Awareness Month. So we've really been trying to do some positive things to get kids to think about their attendance. And so you may have seen some of this out on our social media and maybe through your schools has been shared. But we've had a couple of what we call 100% participation challenge days. So it's a day where we just, you know, one, we want students to attend every single day, but our next one is coming up this Friday. And so what we're encouraging is to try and get every single kid at every single school to participate on Friday, and to see which schools may have really good percentages. And then I give out kind of virtual trophies. So, and they're kind of a flashy thing that schools can post either on their websites or on their social media. And a lot of them have pushed them out through, like the elementary schools, through Class Dojo communications and things like that. And so we're really trying to make some fun things happen. We're also doing prize drawings for students every Monday, and we do that based on their attendance from the previous week. So any student who has 90% participation or better from the week before, is entered into a drawing on the next Monday, and our next one will be on Monday the 28th. And the students we pull one student's name from every school site, and then those students win some school supplies. Our secondary kids win some gift cards. And so again, just trying to do some fun things to get students to think about showing up to school. And then if you aren't aware, we're also doing a virtual poster contest where kids can design something that talks about the importance of attendance, or what kinds of things they might miss out on if they don't come to school. And then our theme for the whole month is "You Count, Don't Miss Out." And so that's really the focus. And just like with the video thing, but if we're talking about a missed opportunity for learning, it's also a missed opportunity for a lot of other things. And like I said, interacting with their friends and building their skills and talents and that kind of thing. And students can draw a picture and they can draw a poster and take a picture of it and email it to me, or they can design something digitally. We have some that are doing some on some different software programs, but really any student is eligible, and there will be prizes for that. And so those entries are due next Wednesday on September 30th. And then we'll be announcing those on Friday, October 2nd, and arranging to give out those prizes. And our goal for those posters is also to be able to use them in our future attendance campaign, so that we can start using some student art to help encourage students to come to school. So yes, we have some fun things going on this month. So I just want you to think about, it'd be great if you type it in the chat, but you're also welcome to unmute yourself and share if you want to share with the group. But what is one key idea from our conversation about attendance today that you will take away and share with somebody else? So you can think about it, and you can either type something, or if you want to unmute and share. I would love to get some ideas about what kinds of things are resonating with you.
I'll share. One of the main things that I love about this whole attendance initiative is that it's very positive. It's not none of the wording is meant to scare kids into being at school or having perfect attendance. It's meant to motivate, and it's fun. And we want our kids to be intrinsic lifelong learners, but I also think that those external rewards, they don't hurt. And so that's nice that there's some fun that goes along with going to school right now.
My name is Diana Bryce, and I want to say that just seeing not only the teachers encouraging the kids to be in school, but also seeing the excuse me, I can't speak. Also seeing that the principal is boosting the children's confidence, like coming to school and just showing up and just being a part of our family. Like, your school is your family. So just reminding them that just come, just be a part of it. Let's show our participation. Let's show our support, to know that, you know, we're all in this together, and as long as we stick together, we can conquer anything. So just seeing that is really important, and it's really nice to see from higher up district teachers, you know, things like that, not just the kids.
Great, thank you. Anybody else have any key ideas or things that you're taking away from today?
Lisa, I can go back to some things that parents shared in the chat while you were presenting those other three or those four categories.
Okay.
Parents had some suggestions, and I think maybe even a couple questions in there. So one of the things.
Stop, or do you want me to leave this up with my contact information or?
That's a good one. You know what? I can copy and paste it from the presentation into the chat, so they can also have it and save it that way. That works. Let's see. So I'm going to put contact information in the chat for everybody there. Did it go through? Not yet. Let's see. There we go. So everyone should have her contact information. So
I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing.
Perfect.
There we go.
All right. So you could see some of the comments that were addressing your questions on your slides and some suggestions for things that are working for people. One that stands out, I see like Diana has her own weekly rewards for her kids at home. So developing their own system. Another parent suggests having good communication with principals and teachers. And that also goes along with what we've been talking about, just in all aspects. Communication is so important right now. Having the same bedtime and having the same time to wake up each day, that helps with the routine. Making sure that they've had breakfast, creating a routine, getting them to work independently. If anyone wants to add in.
I was just going to say, I did also see the comment about how students are how attendance is being taken, because that is certainly something that we are working on, and it's a little bit of a change for teachers. So some of them haven't quite embraced it as quickly, but really our goal is that if students show up, they are not absent. So if they're showing up late, if they get kicked out, because of internet issues and they wind up being not being able to finish the class, that shouldn't affect their attendance. And so what I would say is, if that case, or if you're talking to a parent who is dealing with that kind of situation, please contact the school and let them know about the teacher and what the concern is. And then what I will say is, if you're not getting an answer you like from the school, please contact me, because we really want to make sure, because the last thing we want right now is for kids to feel like, I'm going to get in trouble if I show up late, or I'm going to get yelled at because my internet kicked me out, or I can't have my camera on, or whatever. We really want them to continue to feel confident and comfortable going to class. So yes, so please communicate that with other families. I am more than happy to have people call me if they're having those situations at campus and they're not getting an answer from the school. So let's see.
Can I just chime in real quick? I'm just going to let the Spanish-speaking parents know that if there is an issue that they would like to speak to you about, that they're more than welcome to contact us, and we might be able to mediate as well. Okay. También quiero recordarles, si hay alguna cosa donde usted quiere hablar con la señora Lisa Todd y usted no habla inglés, pero quiere comunicarse con ella, puede hablar con nosotros en la oficina familiar y estaremos dispuestos a ayudarle en contactarla. Okay.
Right, and then also if they call student services, anyone who answers the phone is bilingual, so they will be able to direct them as well. But I will put in here Audria's name, just because she is my attendance partner, and she is amazing. So that's Audria's, and she can walk you. Yeah, we do everything with attendance together. So yeah, so I don't know if there are any other questions or any other things that you wanted either me to know, or questions you wanted to find out about with how attendance is working right now, or with student services in general.
Oops. Okay. Hi, it's me again. I have like friends, who have children at the schools, and they're working families, but the children are unattended when it's time for school. How can the attendants help these kids who have to basically run it by themselves, who are not being motivated or have that motivation first thing to get them started in the morning to log on to class?
So what I will tell you is that is definitely a challenge that we are trying to figure out, especially because we don't have as much freedom to just go hang out in people's houses, you know. So we do, the liaisons that I work with will go to people's houses because I've definitely talked to parents who didn't realize their kids were not logging in because they're like, I get up and go to work, they look like they're logging on. And then the students, actually, there was one 6th grade student who put up a fake sort of screen to fool his mom. They're very ingenious. I wish they were as creative, you know, could put that towards something really resourceful and positive. But that's really what we're trying to figure out is we're working on potentially, we were just talking about it in a meeting actually with Ruby, is can we set up some kind of plans with individual kids to get them individual incentives like we kind of used to do in person, where we would have kids who had attendance issues and they would come check in with somebody every day they're there, and then they would color, you know, get to color in a letter on a little thing. And once they earned all their letters, they get a prize or something. So we're trying to figure out how to do some of those things virtually so that, as Ruby said, we want them to have that inside themselves that they want to go to class, but we know that's not the case. We know that, you know, kids when they're 9, when they're 10, the first thing is not like, oh, I want to get up early in the morning and go to school. So we want to try and figure out some ways for those students. But it really, again, one of the first battles that we fight is the message from the parents that yes, school is important, and then the kids are making maybe a poor choice when they're on their own. It's a different thing if we talk to the kids and the parents are like, well, I can't even be bothered, you know, school isn't a priority right now. And that changes our conversation with the student, because it makes it hard for us to motivate a kid if the parent is saying it doesn't matter. So that's certainly something we're working on, and we know it's a challenge. And you know, we're also really trying to figure out how, when we start bringing students back, how we can really first target some of those students who need to be on campus, need to have somebody looking over their shoulders and helping them log in and that kind of thing. Those would be some of our first priorities.
Lisa, I thought of a question based on something that a parent shared, talking about her child who was having internet connection issues and then was marked absent. Is that something that parents can take care of still at this point by contacting the teacher or the school and sharing the problem with logging on for a past day? Is that still something that they can basically clear the absence for?
Yes, as long as it's not, you know, you're calling and saying the first 2 days of school. You know, we generally, it's hard to go back a month and a half for something that, but if a student is having current technical problems, then yes, first is reaching out to the teacher so they're aware the student may not be participating that day, but also let the school know, because the school has the ability to change that attendance. And so if the parents are able to call and say, you know, the last 2 days my internet was down, my student tried to log in, but they weren't able to. And really the big thing coming out of all of this is communicating with the teacher, communicating with the school. And that's why I'm saying it's been really amazing to watch that process now in distance learning. And I hope that level of communication stays even when we bring our kids back to school. Because what I don't want to have is for us to go back to school and then teachers think they don't have to talk to parents anymore, and parents think they don't need to call the school anymore. So we're really hoping that this is a habit that we keep. But yes, absolutely, if there's something that comes up that now we're able to go back and that you want to talk to the school and say, okay, Monday and Tuesday of this week, my student had internet issues, they can absolutely call the school and get those taken care of.
Are there any other questions? We do have one last thing to take care of before we log off, but are there any questions? Okay, so now's the fun part. Well, before we get to the fun part, let's give Miss Lisa Todd a round of applause for this presentation.
Really, thank you guys asked some great questions, had some really good feedback, so I really appreciate that.
Well, you provided a lot of great information, and you're continuing that work outside of this presentation with really motivating our kids. Those incentives are great, and we love all the work you're doing. So thank you for being here and sharing that. And for our parents, we do have a gift basket. I don't have it with me. I should be holding it up, but it's kind of big. It's a game gift basket that was donated by the Hope Collaborative. And we have a wheel of names that I'm about to spin for our winner out of everyone who came today. So let me share my screen so you guys can actually witness the spinning, because that's the fun part.
Fun.
Yes. Okay, so let's see here. Okay. So all of your names should be in here. Everyone who stayed with us here. So let me spin. And let's see who's our big winner. Diana! So we'll arrange a time to meet so that we can get you that game gift basket. And thank you to everyone who came. We're so happy that this was a priority to you, and we want to help spread the information to other parents. So definitely, if you know someone who could use this information, let us know. I took some screenshots of the presentation that I'm going to put on Facebook. I think I'll put this whole video on Facebook, so share it with people so they can get the information too.
Absolutely.
Right. Muchas gracias a todos que vinieron esta noche. Por favor, compartir, is that how you say share this information? Yes. Gracias.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you all so much.
All right. Good night.